Nobody anticipated that this would be the boundary that was ultimately crossed. Not the decades-long followers of this family. Not the sisters who have endured televised suffering, intimate betrayals, and public breakups. Not the matriarch, whose impact can still be heard in every secret that won't go away. Because this time, when Towanda did speak, it had nothing to do with money, jealousy, or another family dispute. It was about something far darker. In an attempt to move past the final round of accusations and awkward questions, she adds she was never supposed to speak this aloud, just when everyone believed the family had fallen silent once more. Everything exploded in one sentence. Towanda didn't make fun of it. She didn't make it softer. She didn't pretend to be sympathetic. For years, she claimed, she had been carrying a truth. She asserts that the truth was imposed upon her, defended by silence and justified as a familial obligation. She then gave names. Social media froze in a matter of minutes. Clips were repeatedly shown. Sections for comments were divided in half. A few felt ill. Others were enraged. This was hardly an ambiguous tale, and everyone felt as though something irreversible had just occurred. It wasn't a clue. The accusation was directly related to control over authority and a mother whose word, according to Towanda, was law. What actually transpired is what makes this even more disturbing. Before till now. The tension between brothers, the inexplicable silences, and the stories that changed just enough to unnerve people. Towanda is now claiming that the pressure has an impact on more than just relationships and professions. She claims that it influenced her trauma, choices, and physical appearance. This isn't just another chapter in a complex family saga, if even a portion of what she's saying is accurate. It is the point at which the entire narrative shifts. Yelling wasn't what caused the shock. It originated in the silence. At first, Towanda's voice remained steady. People were unnerved by that. She spoke slowly and methodically, as if she had spent years practicing stillness, before deciding that speaking was a safer option than carrying it alone. She claimed that she had spent the majority of her life thinking that defying authority within her own household was a sign of betrayal, that obedience equated to love, and that survival required cooperation. The rules, according to her, were never codified, but everyone knew them. The family is not embarrassed by you. You don't go against what your mother says. Furthermore, you don't relate stories that cause discomfort to others. Towanda asserts that those regulations went beyond simple behavior. They have to do with control. She described a home where affection could be abruptly withheld and approbation was valued like money. You were hailed one minute and frozen out the next. Additionally, as a young lady attempting to establish herself, she claims that she immediately realized that saying no had repercussions. Not sentimental, pragmatic, monetary, or familial ones. According to her, the pressure began gradually. Talks that seemed like advice, but ended up sounding more like orders. Suggestions with expectations, guidance that wasn't truly counsel. She claims that she was reminded of everything that had been done for her, everything she owed, and everything she may lose when she hesitated. She didn't refer to it as abuse. She referred to it as conditioning. And just hearing that word made folks shudder. According to insiders, Towanda had already alluded to a problem. Several years ago, she apparently attempted to explain to a close friend why she was uncomfortable with some family interactions. Towanda said it didn't feel like a choice, according to the acquaintance. At the moment, it seemed necessary. They didn't press her, according to the acquaintance. Opening a door that might not close again was not something anyone wanted to undertake. Towanda now disclosed that she has been troubled by one specific moment more than any other. She claims that she was specifically informed that complying with the requests would maintain harmony. She claimed that her family frequently used that expression. Maintain harmony. Avoid upsetting anyone. Consider your sisters. Consider the name of the family. Consider what others would say. To say that nobody inquired about her feelings. They gave her advice on how to feel. She claims that Evelyn, her mother, who had complete control over the household, was the actual source of the pressure. According to Towanda, Evelyn didn't yell, she didn't threaten, and she didn't need to. Her silence and displeasure were plenty, and everyone sought her approval. When Evelyn finished speaking, Towanda said, "You listened, even if every part of you wanted to run." Michael Jr.'s name was mentioned as part of the circumstance Towanda claims she was forced into rather than as an accusation of behavior. She made no mention of explicit acts. She explained what was expected. She talked about being close. She talked about being put in a circumstance that she claims she did not pick, did not want, and did not feel strong enough to decline. She stated it was presented as inevitable, natural, and something she would overcome. The room altered at that point. It was said that you could sense it via the screen. Towanda stopped, gulped hard, and said a statement that was more impactful than any particular fact. Social media went crazy when she added, "You don't even know you're allowed to say no when you're raised to believe your body belongs to the family before it belongs to you." A few were unable to complete the viewing. Others played it over and over again, attempting to get exactly what she was saying without having to fill in the blanks. Fans disagreed about the phrase. Clarity was needed by critics. Supporters pleaded with people to pay attention to what she truly said rather than what they had inferred. Towanda didn't provide any clarification throughout. She didn't elaborate. She let the discomfort settle there. Old episode screenshots started making the rounds. Evelyn's remarks on women making sacrifices and doing what strength, or endurance, was what they had to accomplish for the family. Those remarks were appreciated and reframed at the time. People weren't so certain now. Everything can be altered by context. Someone close to the family said that fear swiftly set hold behind the scenes. Towanda received calls urging her to calm down, exercise caution, and keep in mind that words cannot be taken back. She was apparently advised by someone that she was creating scars that would never heal. Towanda's the stated reaction was firm but silent. Because they were never acknowledged, they never recovered. Everything was exacerbated by the sister relationships. It is reported that one sister sobbed over the phone, pleading with Towanda to refrain from speaking in public. She was allegedly accused by another of attempting to ruin their mother's legacy. An informant claimed that Towanda claimed she was not attempting to ruin anything. She was attempting to survive on her own. Nobody was calmed by that distinction. The messages came next. Family members' alleged private texts started to leak into rumors. Just pieces, nothing overt. On their own, the messages, "We all did what we had to do, this is bigger than you, and don't forget where you came from," meant nothing. They felt loaded together. What made everything more difficult was the generational gap. Heartbreak and familiarity were voiced by older fans, particularly ladies. Many said that they too were brought up to think that quiet was a sign of strength, and that Towanda's narrative felt uncannily familiar. Younger fans called for answers and accountability. The comments turned into a battlefield between skepticism and empathy. Soon after, Towanda vanished from social media. Absence, no clarification, no follow-up post. According to a source, she was encouraged by her therapist to check into a peaceful retreat. According to reports, she was overcome not by criticism, but by affirmation from passers-by who told her they saw her, believed her, and had experienced similar experiences. Evelyn doesn't say anything in the interim. No affirmation, denial, or guarantee. And the flames were fueled more by that quiet than anything else. Evelyn's voice had always been the loudest in. Suddenly, Towanda's remarks felt more like the first crack, and something much bigger than a solitary confession. One issue remained unaddressed and intolerable as the evening came to a conclusion. What has she been shielding herself from if this is what she was at last willing to say? No denial could have been as loud as the quiet that followed Towanda's disappearance. The family moved like ghosts on the internet for days. No motivational sayings, no memories of family, no everything is fine grins. Additionally, in celebrity families, that silence is never a sign of tranquility. It indicates that damage control is taking place off camera. According to insiders, emergency talks started practically right away. Meetings, strategy, who says what, who says nothing, and who doesn't say anything at all, no emotional check-ins or concern for Towanda's mental well-being. It was a boardroom approach to a family crisis, according to one person close to the family. And just that particular feature changed people's perceptions of everything. Because treating trauma with strategy rather than compassion promotes nobody wants to respond to these queries. According to reports, Towanda's sisters were divided. According to one, Towanda crossed a line that could never be undone, leaving them feeling taken aback and deceived. Another is reported to have discreetly acknowledged that she was heartbroken, that it had gone public rather than shocked. According to reports, that sister said something that eventually found its way into fan circles. I've always known that there were things we managed to survive without identifying. That statement went viral because it implied knowledge without confession rather than because it proved anything. Then there was Evelyn. People anticipated tears, indignation, or denial. They received nothing. No statement via a spokesperson, no interview. Simply said, it's an unsettling absence that gave room for conjecture to grow. Fans started looking over old footage again. Videos in which Evelyn discussed self-control, selflessness, and how her daughters owed the family their success. Those moments were hailed as tough love at the time. Some spectators were now uneasy. A specific video went viral once more. I've been telling Evelyn for years that sometimes being a good mother means having to make difficult choices for your kids. It sounded innocuous on its own, regardless of whether they understood it. It landed differently in this situation. People were expressing the same thing in the comment sections. This strikes differently now. Towanda, on the other hand, was allegedly disintegrating in private, not because she felt bad about speaking, but because of what transpired. She was unprepared for the number of women who would contact her with similar tales, according to a close friend. Tales of families treating daughters like property, moms demanding silence, and being assured that their discomfort was a tiny price to pay for stability. The friend tells Wanda that she sobbed while reading them, because she understood how widespread this suffering was, not because she felt validated. Then followed the communications that were leaked, which made things worse. A writer of blogs released screenshots, purportedly from a previous large family group chat. In retrospect, the ambiguous messages that were time-stamped years ago are unsettling. This cannot become public ever. No names, no context. Just enough ambiguity to ignite chaos, wrote one message, while another stated, she's struggling again. We need to remind her what's important. The family's legal team apparently moved swiftly to take down notices were sent out to shut it down. Bloggers were cautioned. A few obeyed. Others didn't because, once something seems like a cover-up, the public perceives every effort to restrict it as confirmation. Despite not saying anything, Michael Jr.'s name started to trend. Every possible interpretation was made of the silence. Some contended that it was prudent, courteous, and required by law. It was perceived by some as avoidance. Fans started making wild guesses, and even though there was no evidence, the sheer volume of talk made his silence become a story in and of itself. Days I sort of claimed to be close to Michael Jr., according to a person who claimed to be connected to him. Therefore, while Mike dates Mike MD McGinn, my nan will be aware of the wild speculation, and no one will have evidence of us on my nas to consu out, while my ny with season for my na dymt igay my quote Katie, while we skyay like who we are like co at least so cbi can we pleasure can we could follow your advice. A place for gossip. He insisted that he had no idea Tanda felt this way, and that he thought she was misremembering events formed by therapy and sadness, because he was shocked and wounded by the implication. That statement was never verified. Nevertheless, it expanded and exacerbated the situation by introducing the notion that memory itself was now under scrutiny. Supporters of Towanda vigorously resisted that narrative. They maintained that trauma did not create itself. Questioning a woman's memory is one of the oldest ways families escape responsibility, and therapy doesn't cause pain, rather, it reveals it. The remarks turned nasty. Family accounts were unfollowed by devoted admirers. Others strengthened their defenses. Facts were no longer the point of contention. It has to do with belief. Another insider then came forward. This one claimed to have witnessed a crucial moment in Towanda's history. Tangentially cited. The source declined to provide any specific details. Rather, they said something that made everyone uncomfortable. It was not a safe place to descend. Not for women, not for daughters, and not if you wished to remain in the family. All platforms reiterated the statement. Secure for dissent. People started questioning whether Towanda was referring to a specific instance, or a pattern, whether additional women in the family were involved, and whether this was about a single incident, or an entire society. Has just discovered a new way to survive. Ashley's name came up once more. Supporters observed that she had subtly liked a number of remarks endorsing Towanda. Nothing overt or public, but enough to draw attention. Towanda Ashley apparently responded to a direct question about her support on a live stream by saying, "Only I believe people when they tell me how something felt to them." That statement was the subject of infinite analysis. Behind the scenes, it made no accusations or denials. According to sources, family elders were incensed not only at Tanda, but also at losing control over the story. According to one source, a family member added, "This is why you don't tell these stories. Because once you do, you don't get to decide what they become." That statement alone conveyed anxiety rather than assurance. At last, Towanda spoke up. Briefly, with feeling rather than specifics. In a low-volume audio message she claimed she wasn't attempting to change history, as revealed by a pal. She was making an effort to quit carrying it by herself. She stated that she didn't think everyone would get it. All she wanted was for people to pay attention without hurrying. There are two conclusions. Even her detractors were shaken by the final statement she made. "I remained silent long enough to understand the price of silence. That ought to have slowed things down. It didn't." Someone who had previously operated behind the scenes as a family associate anonymous remarked that Towanda's story didn't surprise them during the height of the family's notoriety. They said that stories were rerouted, questions producers were instructed not to ask, and off-limits issues were constantly present. The associates responded that the family brand couldn't endure certain realities when asked why. The topic of conversation changed at that point. It became about power, about who controls narratives, and about whose suffering is acceptable and whose is uncomfortable, rather than just one accusation. And during that change, Tanda's allegation gained significance that extended beyond her. Then, late one evening, a last detail came to light that altered everything once more. A person close to the family's inner circle claims that there is at least one recorded discussion from years ago, in which Towanda attempted to voice her concern, and was urged to put it aside for the family's benefit. According to the source, the recording is real. They didn't make it public. There was only one thing they said. No one hand, by those who were exposed for the first time and those who felt seen for the first time. Towanda stood in the center of it all. A woman whose words had opened a door that had been closed for decades, rather than merely a sister in a well-known family. The family's private communications got frenetic, according to sources. Frantic, not sentimental. Everyone was rushing to recall what they had said years earlier, according to one insider. And who might have evidence left. The tone was changed just by one detail. Because lying is not the source of terror. Towanda's sisters were allegedly no longer together, even behind closed doors, according to truths being remembered. A witness reported that one sister made a single inquiry to another. Why are we all so afraid if this isn't the case? The meeting reportedly came to an end when that inquiry went unanswered. All in all. In the meanwhile, old wounds reopened in surprising methods. Interviews in which Towanda talked about feeling invisible and always being the one expected to make concessions, be understanding, and be the bigger person started to resurface among fans. Once dismissed as personality traits, comments now appeared to be survival tactics. There were patterns. Laughing moments that now seemed forced. Silences that felt deliberate all of a sudden. At last, Towanda reappeared on the internet, but not in the manner that everyone had anticipated. Just a picture of her sitting by herself, no tears, no lengthy explanation. It was instructed to persevere, and was captioned with 6 words that struck like a punch to the chest. That was all. No names, no hashtags, and no explanations. And for some reason, that made it louder than anything she had previously stated. The response came right away. Women flooded the comments with their personal tales of being told to persevere for peace, family, or reputation. Others pleaded with Towanda to defend herself, cautioning her that powerful families are unforgiving. Public truth-tellers with ease. Then there were many who fiercely opposed her, accusing her of destroying her heritage, and involving everyone in matters that ought to have remained confidential. The gap widened. Legal talks apparently became more intense behind the scenes. Not yet, but positioning, not lawsuits. Who was in need of representation? Who was in need of distance? Who had to cut off all communication? According to a person with knowledge of the matter, the family wasn't getting ready for reconciliation. They were getting ready for the fallout. At last, Michael Jr.'s silence was broken, but only in part thanks to a representative. In a brief statement, he expressed his strong disagreement with the way the events were described and requested privacy. Just disagreement, not denial or justification. And because it didn't say nothing happened, that wording was important to a lot of viewers. It stated that he didn't agree with the description. That subtlety fueled another round of conjecture. Towanda never made her response to that statement public. Someone close to her claimed that she was shaken but unsurprised in private. Towanda told them, "That's exactly how it's always been. My experience versus everyone else's version of it," according to the source. This statement struck a deep chord, because it framed the conflict as whose reality is believed rather than as right versus wrong. Then the moment arrived for which nobody was ready. One more insider. The stakes were raised when a journalist received a claim from someone who was described as family adjacent, but not family loyal. They claimed that Towanda wasn't the only daughter who had ever voiced unease about boundaries in that family. The insider declined to identify additional people. Events were not described. They merely stated that she was the first to have the courage to say it aloud. A fire was started by that sentence. All of a sudden, no single accusation or individual was being discussed. It was about hierarchies, about systems, about daughters learning early on that love has conditions, about mothers ruling through fear disguised as protection, and about how Ellie's silence becomes custom. Ashley, who had mostly kept quiet, made one more subtle but noticeable move. In a single night, she unfollowed multiple family members. Just a digital line in the sand, no announcement, no justification. Fans took notice right away. Screenshots went viral. There was an explosion of speculation. Was the solidarity self-preservation, or something else? According to a close friend's second-hand account, Towanda's therapist advised her to get ready for backlash masquerading as concern. Towanda was told something unsettling, according to the friend. A family will attempt to paint you as the issue if you question their narrative. The warning appeared to materialize almost immediately. Towanda's mental health was questioned by anonymous sources who claimed that therapy had clouded her memories and that grief had warped them. Her view. Supporters fiercely opposed it, calling it what it appeared to be and disparaging the speaker rather than addressing the message, even though it was subtle. Then one last detail surfaced that left everyone holding their breath, just when it seemed like the story could not possibly carry any more weight. A longtime family friend asserted that there was a handwritten account from years ago, a journal entry that Towanda herself wrote during the time period she mentioned, but it was not shared or published. I left this up to everyone holding their breath. According to the acquaintance, they saw it, and it described a profound sense of helplessness, pressure, and confusion. They acknowledged its existence, but refused to release it. Towanda has yet to publicly acknowledge this. The family hasn't denied it, and the silence has become intolerable, because the discussion won't be about memory versus interpretation, if that journal ever comes to light. It will focus on documentation, intent, and what was known, when it was discovered, and how many people chose to ignore it. One thing is painfully evident as the dust keeps swirling. There is more to this family's arguments than the past. Who gets to define it is the point of contention. She upset a hierarchy, just by telling a story. And nothing returns to normal after that kind of disruption. Whether more will be released is not the question at hand. It's who will talk next and if they either speak, because they want to or because they are finally compelled to. Because the conclusion of this tale has not yet been reached. The breaking point has been reached. You already know something crucial if you've come this far. You are no longer merely viewing a story. You're seeing a reckoning. It is impossible to undo what Towanda has contributed to the world. Furthermore, the family's silence is now as loud as their words. You won't forget this gossip tomorrow. People's perspectives are altered by this kind of truth. I arrived before ... And this is the truth. The story is still being told. There are unspoken voices in this family. We haven't seen all of the reactions. When the pressure is too great to ignore, certain documents, conversations, and memories might come to light. Additionally, there won't be a press release or warning when that occurs. Release. It will happen quietly, abruptly, and with repercussions. You must therefore remain in contact at this time. Like this video so that, unlike so many stories before it, this discussion doesn't end in quiet. Because so many viewers find aspects of their own life in what's happening, please share your thoughts, not just opinions, but reflections, in the comments. Above all, make sure you subscribe, so you don't miss the next part, since it will alter when someone else speaks. Everything once more. This household drama is far from finished.